Welcome to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.
Welcome to another episode of Slackin' Off. I'm your host, Brady Slack. Today's episode I'm really excited for because I think I might have one of the most interesting, most successful entrepreneurs here in Utah on my show today. He's been on Inc. 500 list. I think the funniest thing about this, though, is he might refer to himself as like the Master Jedi or, the all-knowing. He has referred to himself as Yoda in other places, but Dan Young, thanks for hopping on today. I'm excited about this one.
Brady, thanks for having me on, dude. This is awesome.
Absolutely. I do want to start off though. I always say that doing the podcast is the most selfish thing I've done because I really love to learn from other people. What's with the Jedi stuff? That's the first question I want to dive into. You always kind of talk about you have a group of Master Jedis, and that's something that I want to know about.
So, life is kind of like Star Wars. I think there's a lot of metaphors that mirror life: good, evil, the Force, And so I just believe that there's an energy that flows within all of us, like the Force, right? Some would call that, God's energy, right? Yeah. And it's all in all of us. So, and we have a choice every day to do good things or bad things or nothing or evil or whatever, and it's a constant struggle. So if you haven't watched all the Star Wars, watch the original from the very beginning. And after you're done with Star Wars, you got to give Star Trek some love because all that technology prediction in Star Trek comes true, right?
Yeah. I've watched all the Star Wars, but I've never seen any of the Star Trek, so I'll have to go watch the Star Trek now.
Oh man, it's good stuff.
So, Dan, I think you're most well known for PC laptops. It was funny. I told my family yesterday at family dinner that we were going to be having a conversation today, and my mom, the first thing she said was, Dan, the PC laptop man. That, and if you're from Utah, that's probably the first advertising or marketing around computers that I ever saw growing up. Was that your first company, your first kind of success was in the PC laptop business? What kind of started that, and tell us a little bit about that.
So my first success was when I was a teenager selling T-shirts and sunglasses in Venice Beach, California.
Okay.
And that was the first big success. And it was kind of funny because I would get a bunch of friends from school, some really cute girls from school. This is I'm like 15 and a half, 16 years old, right? And we'd put these cute chicks on roller skates and they'd go up to like dudes that are walking down the beach. Hey, you need some sunglasses? You can get one set for $10. You can get two for $15. What'll it be? Everyone's like, oh, 15, give me two.
Yeah.
Because they want to get a set for their buddy or their girlfriend or whatever,
Yeah.
That was my first entrepreneurial endeavor. I mean, it was great. We'd make $1,000 a day. This is back in like 91. It's crazy.
You made $1,000 a day selling sunglasses and T-shirts.
Oh man, yep, sunglasses and T-shirts.
Can't complain about a California sunshine, can you?
Yeah, it's good.
And then there's one thing too that I kind of want to highlight. So I mentioned you're probably like, this is a fun one for me because I think you are probably one of the most influential and you're very successful. You're a very successful entrepreneur here in Utah. But one thing that I truly believe this, and this, I hope you take this as a compliment. Not only are you successful, but I also feel like you're probably one of the most joyous entrepreneurs here in Utah that I've kind of been watching over the last little bit. And it highlights it perfectly in all of the advertising that you've ever done for PC laptops. It's always PC laptops, we love you. Where did that come from? What's the mantra behind that? And why do you profess that?
Well, here's the whole reason I started PC laptops. I used to work at a big box store before that sold electronics. There's a lot of them still, but the problem was getting help. And, like you go into some of these big box stores, people ignore you. Even if you go online, I have Zydex, my online computer company, and you go online, it's a very impersonal experience, right? So the whole idea about We Love You is being able to take care of people and walk them through a lot of those questions they have and problems they have. Because everything's become so transactional now and impersonal. And I think people really appreciate that personal touch, that you actually care. So, in our training guide, it says, we love you. And it's treat everybody like you would be helping your mom or your grandma, you know. And if you treat everybody with that same compassion and empathy and caring, people can feel that and they'll do business with you for a lifetime. Simple.
Do you, as PC Laptops has grown, do you feel like it's been harder to kind of maintain that level of personability with your clients as you continue to onboard new people? How have you been able to kind of maintain that level of personability or culture, if that's what you want to refer to?
Well, the big one is it hasn't really changed that much as far as that goes. When people come in and they buy a computer, we always have an option. Hey, you want to take a picture, be on our happy customer wall? We have like this LED thing. We used to use a Polaroid, but you can just tell, like if you go to our social media, you can tell that customers, like some have been buying for 2-3 generations now. It's crazy. So the caring is there. And when people talk about like employees like family or customers like family, usually it's a lot of lip service. They say that, right?
Yeah.
But really you can see it in people's expressions on their face, right? That's the proof. So if I see that, I mean, I'm always asking my team, make sure you try to snap pictures of customers if they're cool with it. Share them. We'll share them on social media because I want to see that emotion, you know. But that applies to any business that
Yeah.
that I run.
What as far as with PC Laptops go, how long has it been since you've been in the day-to-day of PC Laptops, or are you still in the day-to-day of PC Laptops? And what did it take to maybe get you out of the day-to-day? And I'm going to use this as a segue to kind of highlight some of the things you're doing now, because I think some of the things you're doing now are really interesting that I kind of want to dive into. But I think that's kind of a good segue question that we can highlight.
So the big thing is, written processes for every department, marketing, sales, logistics, accounting, you have to have system processes in place and have competent people. I like to hire people that are so good to work with and so talented that I would want to work for them in another life, right? That's really been the thing. And it's really hard to find great people because a lot of times great people will just go do their own thing, and so a lot of times it's a difficult thing. But one thing is this though, sometimes you get people who are really good executors and process followers and innovators and things like that, but they want a level of security, good benefits, good base salary, good bonus upside. So they want to be an entrepreneur, which is great because most of my leadership team, they have great entrepreneurial tendencies. They just don't like all the brain damage of being an entrepreneur, Yeah. So it's complimentary.
I've never heard someone call it brain damage, but I mean, some days
it's freaking agony.
Some days that's a good explanation for what it is.
Everyone's like, do what you love, do your passion. Look, man, for me, it's about do what you hate so you can do what you love. I know you're an accountant. I do not like doing accounting, but every year when I go through my tax returns, it's like I got so many companies. I will sit in a 6-hour session with my CPA. We will go through line by line so I understand. Yeah. And I tell her, hey, you're educating me, so I'm up to current tax code here. Because at the end of the day, I sign it. And if it's wrong, and there's people make errors, like my highest paid professionals, attorneys, CPAs, everybody are humans and they make mistakes. So as a business owner, you have to have an understanding of how things work legally, accounting wise, everything. You shouldn't just be like, trust the process. Drives me nuts. Trust the process. Yeah.
There are some days, it's funny because no matter who I'm on a podcast with, there's every single time, every entrepreneur always says there are some days where that security of a W-2 and the benefits there are some days that would be better, right? And I think there are a lot of people who don't do well in that environment, right? Maybe highlight in your experiences how someone can identify whether or not they would be good in that environment.
It's your ability to deal with fear. If someone comes up, and this is crazy, it's carnal, but if someone comes up into your face and spits in your face, can you keep your cool? Someone just started yelling at you. Can you stay calm and handle a situation? can you handle chaos? Can you handle uncertainty? Um, some of the companies that I run now, I ran and burned red for 5 years, lost money
Yeah.
to work an extra 30, 40 hours a week, like freaking crazy, Um, I've had business mistakes where I've worked for free for 2, 3, 4 years, you know? But then when you had that wompish year and you make millions and millions of dollars, people are like, you're so lucky. And it's just like, bro, it's not about luck. It's just about endurance and not giving up. Um, but I think the anxiety and fear of being an entrepreneur, a lot of them don't like to say it, won't admit it, but it never goes away because you're responsible for so many people, their livelihood, your customers, your employees, your employees' kids, grandkids. Like a dumb mistake can cost people a lot of their livelihood. So if you're able to take that level of responsibility, then it's okay. But be prepared to have some big trade-offs. It's crazy. Like it's not, it's easier than you think, but it's harder than you think. It's weird. Yeah.
What's been one of the biggest failures that you've experienced as an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome that?
The biggest, toughest one is probably like hiring top level people that end up betraying you, through the years. Whether it's embezzlement, people stealing from you. Um, and the strange thing is usually any entrepreneur is going to get stolen from, right? Eventually, is when people justify those things, and they're usually not all that of evil people. It's just they justify for whatever situation they're in to like just do crazy things. The second thing that saddens me is I've had probably 4 mid and high level executives die from drug overdose over 30 years.
Wow.
And this is where like I'll bring in and hire like a kid who's like very return missionary, clean cut, and gets in there and suddenly he's making few hundred grand a year, and then he thinks he's untouchable. He starts drinking, starts doing drugs, all the stupid stuff, carousing, and just wrecks himself. And that is very painful to see, because that probably happens to a good portion of young people that make money very quickly
Yeah.
and don't have a plan. That pains me. Yeah.
Staying on that kind of topic for a little bit, sometimes in the natural course of business, there are things that happen that humble you very quickly, travesties and disappointments and bad partnerships, and sometimes you lose a lot of money when you don't make a lot of money. But other times when you do experience success, how have growing up, my parents always used to use the phrase "act like you've been there before." Whether that was in sports or now in business, act like you've been there before. How have you been able to maintain a certain level of level-headedness or humbleness with the successes that you've experienced?
Well, we're all born in this world with no money. We leave with no money. Our life is I believe life is a lease from God, and like we got to do what we got to do to be a decent human and help the world while we're here. I always just reach out to older mentors whenever I'm freaking out, and that gives me assurance because they've already walked the path, so it's not like some shock. A lot of times people say you need to fail, you need to fail, you need to fail, and then you can succeed. But it's not. I mean, you're gonna fail sometimes, but you can avoid. You got to be open to fail, but just talk to those mentors first, and you'll probably fail less instead of just guessing. And nowadays, like people are so much more accessible with social media and those things. And I mean, knowledge is abundant, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of mistakes can be avoided.
Now, and a lot of people I think would consider you a mentor, but who do you look towards? Who are some of your mentors? Who are some of the people that you kind of look toward that lighthouse effect, if you will?
Yeah, like if you go listen to my podcast, I've had a lot of those guys on there. One of my first mentors in Utah was a guy named Jeff Flam. Pretty cool dude, big real estate guy and computer software guy. Phenomenal dude. Dude's like 70 something now. He's like ripped. He's got his finances just amazing and great relationships with his family, charity, all those things. Just like a good citizen you'd want to be like one day, you know? Um, Phenomenal. My other mentor, Mike, is phenomenal. My partner, Bridger, my hedge fund, his dad, John Pennington's phenomenal, you know?
Very smart individual.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing that I think people look too small for mentors, and you want to find a mentor, obviously that's how you want to be. But now the mentors that I like to hang out with, a minimum at a minimum have to have over $1 billion in AUM in their fund, or whatever they're doing. It's just going to save a lot of time, to do that. And a lot of people are like, it's really hard to find billionaire mentors. It's not, as long as you're not a douchebag. As long as like you try to find out what their problems are and help a little first,
Yeah.
But a lot of times people have this like they're owed something, like, hey, mentor me for free, or can I pick your brain? You're like, well, yeah, that's $20,000 an hour for a brain pick.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to offer some reciprocal, thing.
It goes back to the value proposition. How can I help you? And sometimes I think it helps if you go into that mentality of trying to help without expecting anything in return. And then if you do that enough, evidently that will come back, and it might not be from that specific person, but it will come back tenfold. That's kind of the experience that I've had as a younger entrepreneur.
It's tough though, because I want to help every young entrepreneur that messages me, can I run this deal by you? And I just say, look, I put most of my content for free. Quick question. And I always try to get them to commit. I'm like, if you want some help, just subscribe to my Instagram page. It's like $20 a month. At least you're showing that, like, okay, I want to learn something. And then ask a question. If it's a short question, I'll answer it for people. No problem. That way. Otherwise, the content that I put out is just free for people. But free is not always good, because then people don't value it and they don't execute.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I would be interested to find out, you would know the metrics better than I would. How every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you're kind of always doing a lengthier Dan's economic outlook kind of deal. What's going on with the economy? How many people actually watch those videos?
we get a lot of replay, with that. It just depends on the video. This last one I did on gold was pretty insane. Probably hundreds of thousands of people probably eventually seeing that on social media. I wouldn't say, I'm not like Mr. Beast or anything. I'm not getting like 1 billion people, but
But they're good videos. Like that's a great example of something that is free that someone can go look for and receive mentorship or advice on, and be able to utilize that and hopefully impact their own personal life to succeed a little bit more. But a lot of people don't take advantage of that kind of stuff. And again, I like watching those videos. I try and comment a little bit here and there and tell you things, but they are great videos. I've enjoyed watching them.
Thanks. We'll try to make some more.
Where that being said, is it mostly your mentors that you're getting some of this advice from, or where do you look for some of that kind of wisdom and education?
There's a lot of data transfer between my peer group and mentor group. We just share thoughts together, in person. But a lot of it's just reading articles and news, right, about that specific subject. That's just real important to follow whatever industry that you're in and that you should be an expert at. Like, with tax stuff, you're probably subscribing to a lot of articles about tax stuff, current, because stuff's ever changing in this universe so fast that, like, it's like year by year, it's like, what? Completely different 180, right?
Yeah. And this topic of education, if you will, how important has education been in your life? Because I know from a very early age, I think in some instances you stated as young as 5, 6, 7 years old, you were learning about technology and computers and systems. How has education impacted your life?
I think formal school education is very outdated now. I think education by reading books, watching YouTube videos, a good quality internet consumption is critical. You can learn most things. School, I think, is good to learn to maybe socialize a little bit, have some fun, if people want to do that thing. And it also depends, I'm not a big even though I did go to college, I'm not a big college promoter nowadays with the costs and things, unless someone's going specifically in something that needs a degree, know. But most of the experience is going to happen just in real life, and I'm not a big proponent of homeschooling and all. You know, a lot of parents are like, "Oh, school's so corrupt and woke and weird." And it's like, you know what? You got to learn to deal with people in life, and you're not going to like them all, and they're not all going to like you. But that's the whole point of school. You're going to have to deal with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it's good to go to school and deal with people with blue hair, pink hair, no hair, mohawk hair. It's like, these are all humans. So you need to learn to deal, so don't shelter your kids. Oh, I'm all just going to leave them at home and homeschool them. Then they're going to get out in the real world and they're going to get their ass whooped.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. Tell me if we can dive into, so I don't know how long ago it is, and you mentioned your partner, Bridger Pennington. You guys have a fund specifically invested into crypto, and I know you do a lot with crypto, called the Ugly Unicorn Fund. Why? So 2 questions. The first one, why did you want to go fund model to invest? And number 2, why specifically in crypto?
So a couple things. Bridger's dad, his fund, he's retired, he just retired, but his fund is now $48 billion, multifamily real estate.
Yeah.
Now, we were going to call it the Ugly Unicorn, but we were going to actually be a rehab real estate fund. So we were going to take empty Kmarts and Shopkos, and that's what I've done a lot, and fixed up these crappy strip malls and make them into industrial flex and retail, right? But then we saw the economy getting really wonky, and deals were just hard to get, interest rates, and then we're like, eh.
When was this?
This is we launched last June.
Okay.
Yeah. So, things started getting real weird turmoil, So Bridger's dad, I actually wanted to partner with him, but he's like, dude, I just got my bag and retired, man. I don't want to do anything anymore. I just want to chill.
Relax.
But he goes, but if you partner with my son, he's competent. He's transacted a few deals, and you get me in as an advisor informally for no charge. He goes, and of course, a father wants to see his son do well.
Yeah.
That kind of offer from a $48 billion fund founder is pretty good. So I'm like, okay. And Bridger, he acts like he's like a 45, 50-year-old dude, even though he's 20-something. So we started the Ugly Unicorn Fund. Now, crypto, the reason why crypto is, I built the largest Bitcoin mining facility in Utah in 2014. And so I had a lot of experience buying crypto and helping people with it, security protocols and, investing and stuff. And so that's why Bridger and I got in business together with it. And the fund model is great because instead of just raising money from people, hey, can you send me X number of dollars? We have a formalized fund structure. We have third-party audits and administration, all those things that it takes to create a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. So it's not mon pa. It's big time. It's that's how it goes. We could go to 100 billion.
And you doing a fund model probably allows you to have a little bit more, not a little bit, more credibility than just trying to go to Jim and Joe and say, hey, give me a couple bucks to invest, right?
Well, yeah, you've probably, as a tax person, probably helped people write off some losses from bad investments, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd hope so.
And usually those bad investments, though, are because lack of transparency, reporting, accountability. People don't know what their numbers are. And so for our fund, we send out every 2 weeks, this crazy, obnoxiously long report, Excel sheet, third party audited and all that. And then we have an accounting firm every year come in and re-audit everything and review everything. So just checks and balances, it makes people feel much more confident, and especially if you're getting institutional investors. So if you get big investors that are putting in, large amounts, though, they want to see that structure for certainty.
And I know one thing that you talk about a lot that you do personally is dollar cost averaging. Um, do you, for those listening, dollar cost averaging is the practice of investing the same amount of money on a consistent basis, regardless of whether the markets are up or down. Um, do you, what's your strategy with the unicorn fund as far as crypto goes, or what's maybe your outlook on what the crypto market's going to do? I know everyone's Bitcoin is kind of on a bull run right now, and everyone's kind of anticipating to see what will happen because the Bitcoin is supposed to halve in what is it, April of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe give us what your outlook might be. And again, all of this, none of this is investment advice. Everyone should make sure that they do their own research. You know, if you're interested about the Ugly Unicorn Fund, follow Dan, and I'm sure you can get some more information there. But kind of give us what your thoughts are, if you don't mind.
Right. So the government is going to release their central bank digital dollar inevitably. You know,
Yeah.
almost all countries will. It's just that's the new evolution of how transactions will happen. And so um, crypto is just software, right? It's just software. Whether that has functionality or is just hype, you know, that's all it is. But the big thing is the large institutions. So you've got now BlackRock, of course, and like Fidelity and Vanguard, all these guys engaging to launch crypto Bitcoin ETFs and other products, right? All of crypto right now is about a $1.2 trillion market cap, which is small considering like Apple size trillions of dollars, you know, Amazon, Microsoft. All of crypto is smaller than any of those companies we just talked about, right? So what happens, I believe, is when tides rise, all ships rise. So as soon as like the government releases their central bank digital currency, that's a good on ramp and off ramp to track transactions based also on the U.S. dollars. So one, it keeps the U.S. dollar principle strong, you know, but it also allows easy transactions and trackability for taxation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the government just wants their piece of it, right? Of your profits. That's fine.
It's
And
not
then there's
new.
less, huh?
That's not new.
Yeah. Just less resistance though on their end of it once they know they can get paid correctly to fund the country, you know. So um, after that, it's just going to be. I think my guess. This is like my crystal ball. I think by 2025 we'll see over a $10 trillion market cap for crypto.
In crypto.
Yeah, in crypto. So it'll be big, I think.
What effect do you think that will have on the physical dollar?
The physical dollar right now is used, you know, for crime. I mean, like El Chapo and all those guys, they store Benjis in their basement, right? And eight gold AKs, right? So it's going to be tougher for crime lords to do crime with digital dollar. Easy to track, right? Like transactionally. It's not like here's a wad of hundreds, right? Um, but the physical dollar eventually will be more like a collector's item, kind of like gas cars in the way future will be like owning a horse. You know, it'll be like cool horse, cool gas car, it's muscle car. You know, I like gas cars and electric cars, but it's just the evolution of technology. I mean, it's inevitable, and people can rant and they can rave. But I would say don't waste any money on ranting and raving. Just embrace a small percentage of your portfolio into it. And don't be like one of these guys like back in the early 2000s that was like, oh, Microsoft is going to go bankrupt. Amazon's going to go bankrupt. Apple's going to go bankrupt. I'm like, I don't know. What if you just bought like 10 grand back then? You know, like you'd probably be pretty happy today, right?
Yeah, I don't know that you'd have much room to complain. I think one thing that I always find interesting are the people that talk about, since you mentioned a little bit about the taxation of things, they always talk about how crypto is so secure and the government's never going to find out. But the whole idea of this software, whether we're talking about an ETF or Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it might be, the whole idea is that I can verify the veracity of the transactions that have happened before, and the authenticity of those transactions. Am I correct in that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, but you can't on an ETF though, because it's like all in their ecosystem. They hold the keys, not you, right?
Okay.
But if you trust Fidelity or BlackRock, and because they have trillions of dollars,
Yeah.
then there you go. You know.
And are those kinds of companies trying to do their own coins on a separate blockchain, or will most crypto migrate to yeah, I've heard anywhere from 4 or 6 main coins that will kind of be the primary modes of conversion, like a Bitcoin and
This
Ethereum.
is going to
What are
be
your thoughts?
exactly like .com survivability back in the early 2000s, right? Late 90s to 2000s. You're going to probably see 99% of projects just die, right?
Okay.
Um, and the ones that have functional utility, you know, will survive. I think Bitcoin is pretty long standing because it's not that efficient per se. I mean, it's getting better with Lightning Network, but it's like boring. It's like digital gold, like, the BlackRock CEO was saying. So,
Everyone knows about it, so it's bound to stick around, is kind of what you're saying.
yeah, they've established that it's worth something. Kind of like we've established that gold is worth something, even though we just found like double our gold supply in Africa like a couple years ago or something. It
Yeah.
didn't drop gold in half, right? Because like people were like, and like diamonds, there's tons of diamonds, but that valuation is set
Mental.
psychologically. But it's like the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is only powerful because it's backed by nuclear weapons and navy ships, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because if you look at economics, economics are swayed the um, by the behavioral aspect of humans, right? If humans continue to spend and they have confidence in what's going on around them, then the markets are doing well. But anytime, I think, when was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was an artificial intelligence picture that was posted of the Pentagon up in flames, and there was a 30 some odd percent dip in on the stock market just within a couple hours of that image being released, and it has to do with some of the confidence that people had in what was going on around them at the time. It's all based on the behavioral aspect of humans. It's actually quite interesting to kind of look at. Any thoughts on that?
um, yeah, I mean, emotion drives most things, supply and demand. It's kind of like, Pokemon cards or NFTs, like they went up, they went down, It's all just like demand and drive, just like cars, vehicles, people were paying during the pandemic for like a Porsche, 100 grand over sticker. Like,
Wow.
whoa, dude, that's a lot, 50% premium on like a car just because they wanted it that bad, So supply and demand, right? It's just everything is supply and demand. It's like sriracha sauce right now. Isn't it like $50 a bottle for rooster sauce, man?
I don't even like sriracha, so I'm not too. I don't handle too much heat. It's funny. I lived in South America, but like the heat, I don't know. I just think it takes away from the flavor. But that's just my opinion. I can't
There's a
handle the heat.
shortage. It's a sriracha sauce shortage right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that that's crazy. Tell us a little bit about what your day looks like. You've got a lot of things going on, and I think something that I've kind of been looking into, and I'm finishing Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, and trying to highlight my schedule and whatnot. And a lot of questions that people have, I think, relate around how can they accomplish so much? How can they do so much? We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but what does a day in the life of Dan Young look like?
So usually I'm up about 5:30 a.m. every day. Um, I haven't always been a morning person, but it's just you get up early before everyone blows you up. You can get everything done. Most of the stuff though, like you can get done. I like to get things done first thing in the morning. A lot of people do all this meditation and yoga and all this kind of stuff like right when they wake up. But right when you wake up, I don't know. I mean, I think the best thing to do is maybe do 10 jumping jacks, push ups, do some burpees or whatever. But then not more than 5 minutes of that. And then get straight into the hardest tasks of the day: number crunching, answering important emails, reviewing legal documents, whatever you need to do, like get that done first thing in the morning. And then the rest of your day is freaking easy, because people will see me at the gym like at, 10, 11 and be like, man, does this guy freaking work? Yeah, I was just up at 5:30 to 9:30. Freaking, that is serious focus sprint with zero distraction.
Yeah.
you know. Then I'll go to the gym, screw around for a couple hours and stuff like that, you know. Then go walk in the park, walk my dog and stuff, and then pound out another 3-4 hour sprint. Fine. And then, you know, everybody goes to sleep, wife's asleep, grandkids are asleep, everyone's asleep. Then I'll just get in front of my computer and crunch some more, man. Like, you know, it's most people are so inefficient in that, you know how people say, have you heard entrepreneurs say, nobody outworks me? Have you seen entrepreneurs say that?
I hate the whole kind of hustle mentality. It really drives me nuts, to be honest with you.
Humans are massively inefficient compared to like machines. I mean, just when you're talking cycles, I would say at my best production days of my waking hours, so usually 6 to 8 hours is spent sleeping, right?
Yeah.
An hour or two are spent going to the bathroom or showering or whatever, you know, just doing bodily function stuff. So really like half your day is already gone just to sleep and go to the bathroom. The rest of the day, most people are only truly working at maybe 10-20% efficiency. Like, and they talk about how much they're hustling. No, they're taking selfies. They're just waiting at the burger joint to have a meeting with a client. You know, they're schmoozing. They're playing golf. They're just like screwing around. I mean, so all these people who say nobody outworks me, that's just garbage. People are just freaking lazy anyway. But here's the thing. What I do is I schedule all the things I need to do. I do a brain dump and I write them all down on a piece of paper. And I put an A in front of the ones that move the needle, B's that are medium, and a C that's not really that important. So let's say I have 50 things I need to do that are A's. I number them 1 through 50, and then I schedule them on my calendar, right? But some things are not negotiable. Workout every day, not negotiable, right? Yeah. It's just not negotiable. But the work stuff, though, you just pile it in. And really, everything you do only accounts to maybe one major or a couple major accomplishments a day, right? Tasks, right?
Yeah. I don't do kind of the ABC. I'll take the things that what is important that will make me money, what is important that doesn't make me money, maybe things that I need to do for my employees or training or things like that, and then what are opportunities. That's kind of how I list mine out and plug those in during my week. So I think that's a good idea. Well, we can kind of talk about this for a minute because like you mentioned, I hate kind of that whole hustle mentality and the efficiency and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. Do you like social media? Are you against social media and kind of that hustle? Do you?
I don't like, hustle's like, you know, usually that hustle means be dishonest to try to get dollars in your pocket in my mind. Hustling people, right?
Yeah.
Now, helping people solve problems and getting paid a lot to do that, that's good. I help people. I find people's pains and I help solve those and I get paid insanely well to do it. Solve problems, you know. But hustle, like, what, you gotta hustle somebody for somebody? What the hell's that?
We were watching Air last night, and one of the quotes, one of their tenets, one of their core values that I really liked was, if you do the right thing every time, something along the lines of, if you do everything right all the time, then everyone will win in the end, right? And I think, again, kind of highlighting some of the conversations that I've had or that I've heard, you talk about on different podcasts, and again, going back to this idea of PC laptops, we love you, and kind of the mantra that I feel like you've built yourself around is the ability to serve those around me, and in return, everything will work out okay, right? I don't know if that's like, I don't know how closely that aligns with personal tenets that you have, but did you do that knowingly, or is that just kind of unconsciously how you built your businesses and how you live your life?
It's just constant forward movement, right? Learning from your mistakes. That's the big thing, and just, it's really easy to just want to give up when things start hitting you in the face, super easy to do that. And that fear never goes away. Some people think that, like, oh man, I'm going to get so experienced and so good, I'm never going to have those issues mentally, It just doesn't. There is no wizard, in the Wizard of Oz, Emerald City. There's no real wizard there. It's like the Yellow Brick Road journey that's fun, right?
That's a good insight. Yeah, and if it's not one thing, it'll be another thing, and if it's not that thing, it'll be something else, and then maybe something completely different that you didn't expect will come up, in a month, and it doesn't ever end. But I will have to say, I had another podcast with a really good friend of mine. He's a client of ours. His name's Carlos Silva. He goes by Los Hustle on social media, and he kind of talked to he talked about that that caveat and how often sometimes entrepreneurship can really kick you in the teeth, right? But on the flip side, and I don't know if you've had this same experience, but something about entrepreneurship really just lights that fire underneath you, and you experience the highest of highs, and that is what makes the lowest of lows worth it, in my opinion. The successes and the happiness and the ability to help other people around you. And I think when you get to a certain level, being able to see other people win and try and help them win, that's worth it. And that's fun for me.
Yep. It gets fun.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I want to appreciate you. Thank you for coming on, being a guest. And I hope others who have been listening have gained a little bit of value. You dropped quite a few great points of perspective and opportunities, and I hope they kind of pick that up. So again, thank you for hopping on the show today, Dan.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see what else I got going on, just go to Dan's Millionaire Code on Instagram, and there's links to everything. So,
and again, it's every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, his 8 or 9 minute kind of Dan's economic outlook. That's what I'll call it, Dan's economic outlook. But they're really good about what's going on in the economy, what his perspective looks like, and a lot of them are spot on with what is going on and opinions and what things you should look out for. So his Instagram, Dan's Millionaire Code, check him out. If you're interested about investing into crypto, again, follow Dan's Millionaire Code. He's got his Ugly Unicorn Fund that's up and running, and I've heard really good things about it. So congratulations on that to you and your partner, Bridger. Wish you nothing but the best. Again, thank you for hopping on Slackin' Off. It's been another wonderful episode, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.